Hi everyone and welcome back to Artful. In this week's tutorial I'm going to be talking you through some more tips and tricks on how to use your watercolour paints, showing you how to paint an exotic bird. Now, was just the one tutorial last week not enough to satisfy your watercolour appetites? Well, maybe toucan. To begin with, I'm getting a bit of dark blue watercolour and a bit of black, and adding a lot of water we're going to make our first grey layer, which is going to be the body of the toucan, the back of its head, and the separating line between its head and its beak. Now, things are rarely jet black in nature, so while that initial grey layer is still wet, we're going to add another layer of dark blue watercolour on top of it, just to give it a bit more tone and a bit more realism. Adding a bit of water to that blue colour you already have, now you can start painting its feathers. I always like to keep a light stroke when I'm painting feathers or hair. We're using the light blue paint to try and accurately capture how light would hit those white feathers. For the toucan's beak, we're going to paint it a nice vibrant yellow. Now, to get this consistent tone, you don't want as much water in your brush and you want a bit more paint. I'm trying to quickly paint this so I can fill it with the consistent paint tone, and then leaving a bit of a notch at the edge of the beak so I can fill it in later with a darker tone. And whilst that yellow beak is still wet, I'm mixing together some oranges and red to paint that underside of the beak. And because it's wet, you'll see how the paint starts to bleed together. With that nice darker blue watercolour tone that you've already mixed in your tin, you can start to paint the edge of the beak. I've also used the same colour to add to the body of the toucan as well, just to make it appear a bit more three-dimensional. With a bit more vibrant blue paint, I'm painting the toucan's eye. And after that, adding a bit more pink and red to the orange tone we've already mixed, and painting the details on top of the toucan's beak. Once that blue eyeball is completely dry, you can start to add the orange detailing around the eye. For this colour, I've used a very bright orange and I've not used a lot of water on my brush, just so I get a nice consistent flat colour. Once that beak is dry, now you can start adding a bit more detail. The great thing about mixing paints in a tin is that it won't dry as quickly as it would once applying it to paper. Using that nice dark orange that you mixed earlier, adding a bit of water, you can start to add details to the beak, such as the ridges. I'm also going over some of our darker layers for a third time, just to make them a bit more defined so they don't bleed into the yellow of the beak. And you'll see here now I'm adding another layer onto the body, then I'm actually letting the water of the brush dry out. This is called dry brushing and it gives it a nice texture and it helps sell the idea that there are feathers on the body. Watercolour dries relatively quickly depending on how much water you put on the paint. So if you've got a lot of water on your brush, it will dry a lot slower just because the water takes longer to dry. But if there's less, it will dry relatively quickly. I can wait for the paint layers I've already done to dry and then work back into it just to refine it a bit more. So you'll see I'm outlining the beak again, adding a bit more paint just to make it darker, adding a bit more detail onto the ridge of the beak and a bit more colour onto the top and underside, and again adding a bit more feathering and a bit more detail into the body and the white feathers of the toucan. And for our final detail, mixing together some black and blue paint, I'm adding the pupil of the toucan's eyeball. I'm adding 2 circles of blue within the eyeball so it looks like the pupil is reflecting light. And there, it's finished, a nice watercolour toucan. This took me around an hour to paint, factoring the drying time as well. I think watercolour has this reputation when compared to oil paints or acrylic paints, that the colours are a bit washed out and a bit pastely, but I hope this tutorial dispelled that rumour and showed you that you can still make some very vibrant paintings using your watercolour sets. Let us know in the comments down below how you got on painting your toucans, and if you want to share your own creations with us, tag us on Instagram at Artful Box. Like and subscribe to our YouTube to see some of our earlier videos. Why not treat yourself and visit artful.co.uk. Thank you very much again for watching, and I'll see you soon.